Should be good.
We're live. Happy weekend, happy Saturday to y'all out there. This is Previn I.W. Taylor, along with my man Pete Double S Dukes. We're not just all the Double S Project, but we're two of the Double S Project. This is the Double S Project Fantasy Football Show on a Saturday afternoon, as opposed to whenever we usually try and get around to doing it. It was a busy week. We got jobs and stuff and all that, and stuff to do. Let's just put it that way. So going to spend a few minutes talking about a little fantasy football. It's Saturday, so a lot of people. Actually, it's Saturday going into week 3. Let me start off with that. And we said last week, week 2 and 3. By week 2, certainly by week 3, you should know what you have in your team by now. So you've got more of a focus on how much you need to improve, if you need to improve. And if it's bad enough, you're probably beginning to wonder your capacity to improve, especially if you had some of these quarterbacks that went down last week. Tony Romo, got Drew Brees, he's not going to play. Who else? Anybody else get hurt? Was it just those two, or who else?
Well, you got Breeze, you got Romo, you got who else? Just a couple other people. I mean, they going back and forth. I mean, then you got some controversy back and forth between Johnny Manziel and McCown.
Oh, yeah. But let's face it, most people in most 10 to 12 man team leagues aren't looking at that Manziel and McCown thing but if you're in a 16 team league, you were probably thinking about, I got to have McCown on my roster. I mean, the obvious thing is if you haven't picked up like a Tyrod Taylor, you've been scrambling to do that this week. Though I can't really imagine a lot of circumstances where he wouldn't have been on somebody's roster prior to last Monday. Jay Cutler, he's out.
Cutler's out.
Cutler's were. And it's not like you got a lot of people out there rushing to pick up Jimmy Clausen to replace him, especially since they got Seattle, who's also got Cam Chancellor back, and they're in Seattle. They're 0-2, so that's going to be an ugly matchup. Basically, if you have any Bears, and Alshon Jeffrey's not going to go, so that just kind of leaves you with Bennett and Forte, so you probably aren't going to play either one of them. Or if you're desperate, you're just going to leave Forte out there and hope for the best. That's like 3 starting line quarterbacks, not necessarily all the top quarterbacks, but 3 of the starting line quarterbacks that aren't going to be available. So you're trying to improve. You're looking at filling that void. Even if you already got another good quarterback, like, say, Pete, for example, he's got Drew Brees, who's down, but he's also got Carson Palmer, who's been far outperforming Brees anyway. So how are you looking to maybe do something with that, or you're gonna play it out?
No, I was actually thinking about benching Drew Brees, for that matter. I mean, Carson Palmer, as long as he's healthy, he's going to put up numbers, it looks like. So He's proven that the first couple of weeks, even though last week was the Bears. So honestly, I would keep Drew Brees and almost, kind of move him to a backup position. And then in another league, I actually have Aaron Rodgers and Carson Palmer.
Okay, that's just not fair.
Right, but people were not paying attention to that situation. But the thing about it is, usually, Aaron Rodgers has been hurt twice in his career, once before he even started and once when he got started, as far as out, being hurt where he's out of the game, can't play. So if Carson Palmer stays healthy, I may wind up using him as trade bait in a couple of weeks. I'm lacking consistency, which I thought was going to be as interesting, lacking consistency at a wide receiver right now because I got a couple of injuries. So things continue the way they're going with Carson Palmer. One league, I'm going to probably start him. And in the other league, with having Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to probably use him as trade bait to try to get some better receivers.
Right. Well, let's talk about that trading, for example, because that was a topic of discussion amongst some social circles of mine affiliated with the Double S League. My quarterback is Andrew Luck, which has been pretty ugly for 2 weeks. But let's face it, I mean, they're going to start playing in the AFC South again pretty soon. Luck might not get 40 touchdowns this year, but right now, going into week 3, it's probably unrealistic to expect him to be a complete dog for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so his upside is still there. So in my case, I've got what seems to be a capable backup in Bridgewater. So far, he's only scored, I don't know, like 4 points less a game, or he outscored Luck last week, obviously. Um,
Right.
so in my mind, like yourself, I've got some inconsistent. I'd like to, consolidate a wide receiver, as in I would prefer to probably move a few bodies where you got some guys that all are probably capable of the same wide receiver 2 or 3 production. And when it
Right.
comes down to making a pickup or something, you're sitting there like, well, which one of these guys do I cut? They're pretty much all the same. So on any given week, I could get something out of any of them. You just don't really know. So I looked
Right.
at it as kind of like consolidating, and I approached the league member basically saying, um, to max out on my capacity to improve, I basically asked him what it would take to get Julio Jones off of him.
Right.
And I
Okay.
threw luck and said, luck and start naming players, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And while he is only carrying one quarterback, and that one quarterback isn't all that good right this minute, um, he felt that he needed more at the running back position than than I was able to offer him, which I understood completely. I got basically a bunch of at best running back twos. Some guys though with with the Matt Jones and the David Johnsons with a lot of high upside, their value could escalate quickly over the next few weeks. But right now, if you
Mm-hmm.
got Julio Jones, and especially if you're in this guy's position where he's 0-2, um,
Mm-hmm.
it's I'm gonna have to say something to my wife who's entering the house right quick. But yeah, just to say, yeah. But if you're in his position, I understand that he didn't necessarily have a lot of great players and he was thin at quarterback. 1 second, please. Hey, can you just bring in the cold stuff and leave the rest? I'm on a conference call right now. I'll come out and get the rest in a second.
Live TV, folks, or live broadcasting, whatever you want to call it.
Hey, Paige, go
Hilarious.
help mommy.
Hilarious.
This is what happens when you're live with the Double S Project family. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, groceries are in the house. What I'm saying is he's 0-2. I'm 1-1. He actually lost the game to me when his guys no showed. He's not sure of his roster. I'm saying, basically, I think for a chance to compete, I needed a really, really good wide receiver, especially after losing Jordy Nelson to injury. And I had him on the hook for a second. We went back and forth, tossed out a few things. I was open to letting a lot go. But he just
Right.
didn't. I mean, it's Julio Jones, man. He's number 2 wide receiver in fantasy right now, and ultimately he felt that it
Who is
was
he
just
behind? Who is he behind? Antonio Brown?
Antonio Brown. Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah. So I felt good in that capacity. I was actually able to get him to talk, but I understood where he was coming from. But yeah, there was some questions coming around. I was like, well, how could Julio Jones ultimately not equate to a 1-1 for the high upside of Luck and maybe a one halfway decent running back with a lot of upside, or RB2 with a lot of upside? I said, basically, look at it this way. If I came to you with the same trade, would you have taken it?
Right.
And that's basic. Go ahead.
No, 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 no. I would have thought about it. No
Yeah,
problem.
man, that's what he did. He did me the at least at least did me the service of thinking about it. But I think in all rationality, if he came to me with the same trade, I would have thought about it. Odds only slightly higher that I would have taken it, but not that much. I'm not sure. Um, he doesn't believe the quarterback position could really improve his chances of competing that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, at this point, you got to kind of look at this and see where your strengths are, and if it makes sense to move some pieces early. What you don't want to happen is have valuable pieces, and then have an opportunity to build, and worrying too much about if you want to stay have enough firepower in doing your bye weeks. I think is one of the things you got to consider too. You don't want to spread yourself too thin before those bye weeks kick in. So I think it's kind of, it just really depends on, if you feel like you're in desperate mode, if your team is not putting out points. I mean, like last week, we'll get into it, but I pretty much overcoached myself in one league and basically wound up making the right moves, but I didn't made the right waiver moves, but didn't make the right roster moves. So I kind of outcoached myself. So I don't take
Didn't
that.
put in the lineup that would have worked for you.
Yeah, so I didn't take that, count that against myself to say my team is not performing. It's just I have guys that can play. I just put the wrong players in based on some coaching philosophy.
Well, I mean, come on, there's some things you just can never really see. Like if basically I would have won my second week game, even though I should have lost and lost big, I would have won it if I had played I could have played a dead body instead of Keenan Allen, and I would have won.
Well, here's some advice that somebody can take that I think is valuable. If you have a guy or have someone that is nursing an injury that is coming back from that injury, give them a game before you put them in, even if they're a stud. Because
unless you're really desperate.
If you're desperate, you have no choice. Like if you have nothing else or a bye or whatever, you have to play if the person is active. But I found that playing Michael Evans last week for Tampa Bay, the matchup was great, but he's coming off a hamstring. And right at the last second, it was like he's active, but we're going to put him on a pitch count. And then or 10 plays or something like that. So, and I had that happen to me in the past as well. So that was one thing that I would tell people. If you have guys, even if like you have a Drew Brees and he's coming back that next week, unless he's playing the Bears, I would give Drew Brees a week once he gets back, a Cutler a week, just to make sure these guys are not only healthy, but, they're going to be able to perform to the level that they, left to a certain point. Or have the, if you got other options, go with the other options. Like you said, I lost by 2 points last week, so I could have played anybody else on my roster to fill that spot in, running back or another receiver, and I would have basically won that game. So it's one of those things.
Right quick before we go, how long do you stick with Eagles running backs before you start bailing?
No, I don't. No, but what I'm saying is reality is there.
So you probably have to stick with them.
No, I think you need to make some moves, because even if you have them and they start performing, he's still not going to. There's no pattern. There's no consistency of how we're going to use people. It's the Eagles' offense is still figuring itself out. One of the best waiver moves I made last week, and like I said, if I would have played them last week, I would be okay too. I picked up the Jets defense in one league. For some reason, they were still there.
That should have never happened, though.
But anyway, my point is, by me picking them up, it gives me the option to play them against the Eagles this week. You would not. I mean, the way they performed so far, you wouldn't think anything different, because the Eagles have not shown consistency in A, scoring points, and B, how they're going to score the points. You have no idea where the points are going to come from. Well, most teams right now, you can get a sense on where the points are going to come from, and that way you make the right waiver moves based on that system. But the Eagles, the Saints, you don't know where the points are going to come from the Saints. There's a lot of teams. There's about 5 or 6 teams that you just really are shaking your head like where the points are going to come from, and you have to make moves based on that. Make moves based on what you know. I'll just say it like that. You know things now. It's week 3. You know some things. Yeah. Make those moves.
And the good news is, with the picture beginning to firm up, you still got like some inconsistencies, some hot and cold teams out there, but even better so than in week 1, you probably got a better cue on the matchup.
Believe in the matchups.
Believe in the match. Oh, look, you're playing the Saints defense. You know what you got that week. You're playing the Bears defense. You know what you got that week. Somebody was even asking me about picking up Angry Doug. I said, "Are you crazy? If you don't already have Angry Doug, if you have Angry Doug, you're playing him. It's the Bears."
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't care if you have Luke.
Seahawks.
Yeah.
Play all Seahawks this week.
Play all Seahawks. If you got Luke, was it Luke Wilson? Advice. Luke Wilson playing.
Play all Seahawks this week.
Who's their backup
That's
running
it.
back? Play him if you got him.
Turbin, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. It's Fred Jackson.
Maybe
Yeah, Fred Jackson. Unless he's hurt.
so. Play.
Yeah,
Just play
play
him.
him. I don't care.
Put him in.
If you get yourself a Seahawk uniform
If you,
and play
yeah,
yourself.
I gotta check and see if I'm going against Russell Wilson this week because this is gonna be ugly.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I got him in one of my teams, so he's definitely playing.
Right.
So, anyway, man, I got to run.
Me too.
Yeah, but we got a quickie. I'm gonna try to get on tomorrow. Hopefully, I keep saying I'm gonna do this and try and do a Periscope update on the status of my team. Just maybe about 4 o'clock point. What my teams or whatever have you, and just do a temperature check to see what sort of reactions going on out there.
Okay.
So this is the Double S Project. Pete, Double S Dukes, Previn, W Taylor. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. If you like this video, please give us the thumbs up because we like talking about fantasy football even if nobody's watching. And anything, Pete?
Nope, that's it.
All right, that'll work for me. All right, y'all have a good weekend, y'all.